If we want to know the 5 paths to brand success, the person that we need to hear from is the President and Co-Managing Partner of Brand Trust Partners. Please welcome Mr. Tim Hayden. The closing keynote for today, right? Loads of information, and it's going to be the best one.
Thank you, Andrew.
Hayden.
Hey, you got me? All right.
Yes.
Howdy. How's everybody? If you can't tell, I'm going to fly back to Austin, Texas this evening. Have all you Digimarc hunters enjoyed the last 2 days? Learned lots? All right. I'm about to blow it all up and tell you why some of that will work, won't work. But honestly, I think you heard it before a couple times today even. We're living through the most incredible high-velocity change in the history of humanity in terms of how we communicate, how we operate, and as we know it in the 21st century, how we conduct business. So, with that, you, the marketers, have found yourself in this pretty sticky predicament because you understood what was going on with Facebook and email and other digital means through which you could communicate with customers and otherwise drive both top and bottom line success for the brands you serve, the brands you own. The world is on your shoulders now, expecting you to carry them forward into the future. And you've got to measure it, you've got to be accountable, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many clicks, how many open rates, how many leads you generate, it matters how much you're selling. And we're living through this period, and I would say period, we're in this for a good another decade or so, if not longer, of abrupt change, where transformation is not something that we do as much as it is something that happens to us. And with that, there are a couple of things that I have on this slide here, but understanding basically the convergence of comms and marketing. It used to be that you'd have somebody who was the head of comms and they would handle press releases and they would handle the speech or the message that could be communicated in times of crisis or during a product launch, basically writing the script for the CEO many times. And that would be so different than someone who was marketing, who was all about brand and all about creativity. Now today, because we're data-driven, comms and marketing are using the same data. Most of you, if you're in an organization that's large enough to have separate comms and marketing functions, your company's paying twice and 3 times for the same data. That's a challenge. There's globalization happening right now in terms of stakeholders. Globalization's never been more apparent than where we are right now with GDPR regulations. GDPR, none of us are operating in Europe, right? Or maybe not so much. All of our customers, many of us in the room, most of our customers may be here in North America. But just like I may drive a truck or buy a truck or car in Texas that's passed California emissions tests, all of you are going to have to operate by European standards now in terms of what you do. If that's not enough to think about, with the high velocity of innovation that's out there today, we have absolutely new and wonderful ways to leverage digital technology. This is from a study that NPR and Edison Research released at the beginning of this year. They talked to about 2,000 Americans, and they're able to distill from that what the total population representation is. About 16% of Americans 18 plus have a smart speaker in their home. Raise your hand if you have a smart speaker in your home. And probably just a little bit more than 16%, but then again, we're digital marketers, we're early adopters. The scary thing about this, and the thing that should have everybody on warning, is that 2 companies represent the bulk of that 16%. Only two companies, Google and Amazon. And for some of you, you may look at this and say, that's okay, because I already have 10% of my marketing budget wrapped up in Google as it is. Or I've got 5% in Amazon, so it's okay to go because they are where my customers are. But think about that for just a second. These are channels that are up front with your customer and own the customer experience more than you do. These are brands that may own a customer experience more than you do if you choose to leverage what's happening with voice. What's even more important to look at is the behavior change here. When asking owners of smart speakers, where else would they like to have this? They pretty much answered everywhere. I would rather not have to look at a screen or use my fat thumbs to type something in my phone. I'd rather just use my voice. So if you're not thinking about how voice is part of what you do, so much of what we've talked about over the last 24 hours has been driven around either visual or textual information and media. Voice is the thing that is here and is going to stick and stick hard. Furthermore, we don't know who we can trust in terms of the rented land in which we operate. It is a twice-a-week occurrence now that Facebook is in the headlines with the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, or someone else about some backdoor deal they did with some company, some device maker, someone else, to be able to creep in and leverage your data. When I gave this talk in Houston last week, I had 4 people come up to me after the talk and say, hey, that thing you were talking about Facebook, you know, we've been out at happy hours before and everybody started talking about going to Cancun, and the next time I logged on to Facebook, there was an ad for Cancun in front of me. You don't think it's real, but it's happening. And the good news is somebody's going to get them and hopefully cure this for us. On the first day, somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 hours after GDPR went into effect on May 25th, the European Union filed suit against 2 of the biggest arbiters of global media, Facebook and Google. It's pretty simple. Over the last 10 years, as we've gone more digital with our media, we have done everything we can to chase down our customers. Scott Brinker at HubSpot puts together this Lumascape every year called the MarTech 5000. It's called the MarTech 5000 because last year, in 2017, there were actually 5,000 logos on that Lumascape. He still calls it the MarTech 5000 because it rolls off the tongue very well, but there are 6,802 brands or companies that are on here. Point solutions. The average Fortune 2000 brand right now is using somewhere between 50 and 80 point solutions, 50 to 80 different tools to manage digital customer experience. And that presents some challenges. And before I talk about those challenges and how you can resolve them, let's take another look at this in terms of history. This is smartphone growth over the last 10 years. Here in the United States, adults 18 plus. For 5 years, you have had a direct peer-to-peer connection with half of your customers. Half of your customers have been carrying around an HD or 4K production studio in their pocket, a supercomputer. They take it everywhere with them they go. If you say you don't go to the bathroom with it, you're lying, right? The most intimate of devices that goes everywhere with us, and that presents the opportunity that we've had, again, for at least 50% of our prospects and customers for 5 years, to build a peer-to-peer, one-to-one relationship. And peer-to-peer, one-to-one means a lot of different things. I think the best illustration is to look at these 2 gentlemen. Any Cheers fans in the room? Raise your hands high. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you don't know what Cheers is, because I know there are people from other countries and there are people that were born maybe after 1985 in the room. But if you think about these two individuals, Cliff Clavin on the left, he knew a little bit about everything. When you watch Cheers, it didn't matter who in the bar was talking about politics or the Red Sox or anything else. Cliff, they could be talking about Aboriginals in Australia. And Cliff knew something and would be able to go up and just butt into the conversation. The reason I use that as an example, good old Cliffy, is because there is no more barroom debate. There are no more barroom arguments. There is really no more barroom trivia, because all we have right now is IMDb, Google, and Wikipedia in our pocket. We can prove or disprove anything, right? So we all can be like Cliff. We all are like Cliff. We've got all the information in the world in our pocket. We know, and maybe an inch deep and a mile wide, a little bit about everything. We have the opportunity to do that. On the right, when he walks in the bar, everybody in the bar says, all right. Not everybody at once. This is what I get for being the last talk of the day, and in between you and drinks. The epitome of personalization. When he walks in the room, everybody says, Norm. He has his chair at the bar. There is a beer, not literally with his name on it, but a beer waiting for him when he sits down, and we know his disposition. He's always cranky about work, and he's never happy about his wife. And that's what personalization is all about. And that is the remit, the number one remit that you have before you as marketers, to know your customers, to truly know them beyond media performance and general click data. And with all the means that we've had to do this, we still send emails out that say, hello, customer, hello, member, instead of using their first name. And I see this happen all the time. I'm sure many of you do, as you get twice to 3 times as much email as you probably ever bargained for, if not more, where messages come through and they are anything but personalized. The reason that this happened is quite simple. What I said earlier about Fortune 2000 brands having these 50 to 80 point solutions and having a challenge with that is because of this. Let's take Cliff. Online, when he's filled out forms on your website, he has used the name Cliff. On social, Twitter at least in this case, he is Cliffster. He has a credit card that he has used, maybe with e-commerce or maybe in the stores that you have, and on his Amex card, his name is Cliff B. Smith. In search, Google is telling you that Clifford is coming to your website. In your CRM, lucky for us, there is an entry for Clifford. And when he downloaded your mobile app, he just used the name Cliff. At the end of the day, this is one person that you need to know, and you need to know across all of the disparate functions in your organization. Many of you in the room may look at what I have up here and say, none of that, or maybe only 2 of those things fall under my purview. And that's a problem, because you're talking to the same customer that somebody in another building, in an office down the hall, somewhere else is talking to as well, perhaps on the phone, maybe when they come in the store, maybe when they send them a piece of direct mail. But you understand the disconnect that I'm talking about here. The impact of this is quite simple. We get fewer repeat purchases, and marketing is constantly tasked with acquiring new customers and generating traffic. Pulling people, pushing people back to our website, pulling people, pushing people back to our social profiles and to points of purchase, both offline and online. The most valuable customers are like the majority of you who raised your hand earlier and said that you have a smart speaker in your home. The majority of your best customers are also early adopters, and when they find a better deal with less friction and less pain in the purchase process, in the search process, whatever it is that's involved in the customer journey, the less that it hurts, the more they're going to do it. Or the better it feels, the more you do it, right? And they go to somebody else. And at the end of the day, it puts you in a position where you're losing revenue. And this is a fact for anybody in retail, in big retail, but Walmart. They're a client, but not fully responsible for that. But over the last 10 years, they're the only big box retailer to actually gain market share. The other top 20 big box retailers have contracted. They've closed stores, they've let people go. This is happening not just in retail, it's happening across all of industry right now. So how do we solve this dilemma? The first thing that you'll do is start with what you guys work with, the majority of you in the room, day to day. The digital customer, the records you have, the entries you have in all of these tools that you're using, those are your digital customers. They may not wholly interact or engage in commerce with you through digital means, but let's consider them digital customers. The second thing we're going to talk about doing is creating loyalty and a consistent user experience that encourages repeat purchases. Again, if you're personalized and if you have a frictionless experience, people will come to you again and again. What am I describing when I say that? Amazon. It knows me, and it makes stuff show up at my front door in 4 hours. Why would I want to go anywhere else, right? There's no reason why you can't follow suit, and the majority of what we do at Brain Trust is help legacy brands build direct-to-consumer models. Your steps to success. Quite easily, we're going to talk about how you'll connect all the data from all those disparate systems into one place, the consumer data platform. 2, once you have your data in order, the ability to go and apply machine learning and artificial intelligence to understand more about your customers than you've ever wildly thought you could. Because having that data all in one place will tell you more things about your customers than any one-point solution can. And then lastly, with that directional information you have on your customers, make better decisions about what you will want to develop in terms of campaigns and messages and ultimately digital products. I'm going to repeat all these things as I go through these slides. How many of you in the room have a customer data platform installed today? A couple hands went up. I'm not talking about a CRM. If you're a Salesforce customer, you're using Crux. Crux is their, or you would know if you're using Crux. Crux is their, what was called a data lake 18 months ago, is today's customer data platform. With the customer data platform, you have the opportunity, with the best ones on the market, to have API connections to all of the different touch points that are touching the customers, where customer data is living in all of these separate point solutions. Bringing it all into the customer data platform is where the magic happens. Building some semblance of connectivity from that over to a digital media or digital management platform, digital asset management platform, and ultimately perhaps a DSP that you're using to make media buys on a daily or weekly basis is where things get real. Having the CDP in place, you'll have a unified view of your customers. Go back to that slide where Cliff was at the bottom as a single person. Once you singularly know everything that is happening and everything that a customer has done across all those touch points, and you have it all in one place, you're going to have that wonderful single view of your customer and understanding everything about them. And once you have this data, you will have the ability to know your customers better than you ever did before, which will in turn help you with personalization, contextually relevant experiences, and better engagement with them. and ultimately a better attribution model, a better measurement model for understanding the performance of what's happening across the business. Because right now it is managed departmentally by different people using different tools. The other bonuses, just to go down the list of unifying all of your data in a customer data platform, are astonishing. The number one thing that you will do is you will lower your marketing spend. You will stop being redundant with your display advertising, with the other outbound marketing that you're doing right now, because you'll have synergy and alignment between the various disparate departments, programs, people that are managing the customer experience, managing marketing, customer care, and other means. You will be closer to GDPR compliance than most of you probably are right now. And if you go back to that situation where Cliff has a different name or a different label in each of the different platforms that touch him, imagine if Cliff is a UK resident and he says, I want you to delete everything you have about me. That's what GDPR means. In Norway, they call it digital suicide. I prefer something a little lighter, just the freedom to be forgotten. Your customers have the ability, they have the right today, thank you to GDPR, to come to you and not just simply unsubscribe from a mailing list, but to totally vanish from your records. And if your customers are living with separate records in all these different systems, it could take you weeks, if not longer, to find out where they are to do that. With a customer data platform in place, you have the luxury of immediately ejecting them or erasing them. I've already talked a little bit about it, but personalization and contextual relevance at every single touch point. There are many software solutions, many software as a service tools that are out there today that have portended to do this for years now, to take you closer to personalization. Nothing will help you get there faster using your existing tools. I haven't told you, and I'm not going to, rip and replace anything that you're using today. The best CDPs on the market will have an API connection to all the tools that you're using today. But those systems will start to operate much cleaner, smoother, and personalized once you have that single source of truth. The other thing you'll be able to do is basically have what I would say optimal, superior segmentation abilities, because now that you've got all of your customers' data in one place, you'll be able to, as I said before, leverage machine learning to uncover insights and be able to understand the various segments that you have. The art of customer journey mapping and persona identification is dead. You have thousands of different archetypes that make up the body of your customer base. And the differences between them are very small and very large, but they cannot be put into a nice, neat little set of 10 or 6 personas. With a CDP, you can understand what that vast spectrum of customer behavior looks like. And I've mentioned it several times, but having your data clean and better governing your customer data allows you to leverage artificial intelligence. The big promise of artificial intelligence is that we will be able to do more with our time because machines will start to do more for us. But the truth is, if your data's all over the place, it's garbage in, garbage out. So you must better govern your data, and a CDP can help you do that. And as marketers, especially those of you who've been in the social space over the last 5 years, there's really no reason why you shouldn't be in rooms that speak about innovation and new product development. You've had your finger on the pulse of customers. You've been listening to what they say. You've had tools that help you with word clouds and sentiment analysis and trend analysis. You know where the puck is headed, probably better than anybody else. With the CDP, you're guaranteed to be able to have the reports, the analysis, to sit at the table and talk about what product development and go-to-market looks like, not just tactical day-to-day marketing operations. And the surety of what's next. Once all of your customer data is in one place, you are not future-proof, but you're future-ready. No one is future-proof. There is no way to future-proof your business. But whether it's artificial intelligence and chatbots, or it's virtual reality, or it's AR, or it's blockchain, or it's 12 years from now and it's quantum computing, these things are going to revolutionize the way we live and the way we operate as businesses. And getting your data together today is going to ready you for all of that and what it has to offer. And finally, is just that. If you think the freedom to be forgotten with GDPR regulations is a game changer, wait till blockchain becomes a reality for your business, because this gives customers the opportunity to operate anonymously. You'll never know who they are. Now, they'll be able to put smart contracts in their transactions, and you'll be able to pay them to find out who they are. But for the most part, to get that started, you'll have to be able to verify their identity in the early days to use blockchain. And again, if you don't know who your customers are, if you don't know who they are holistically, you won't be able to make some of the decisions and the verifications that you'll need. So, getting into the 5 paths here, and apologies for a little bit of a formatting issue here. On the left is a list of the things that up until 2018 that we as marketers think we have owned. We think we've owned the cookies and the pixels and the custom audiences, the third-party data that we can plug into Facebook to target folks, which we can no longer do. That's a mix of the Cambridge Analytica situation and what Facebook has done to pull back APIs and some of the functionality that you had in the platform. It's them covering their tails to make sure that you're not bringing third-party pollution into the platform as well. But for everybody, and I have been using this slide, doesn't always look this way, but I've been using this slide for the past 4 months, more as a call to action before May 25th. Because you don't really know some of the people that you're targeting. You really don't know that much about the folks that have been cookied or pixeled, and you are retargeting. So to get yourself in a position where you really truly know them, simply go to all the places where you were targeting them, and instead of trying to get them to click through to a point of purchase or subscribing to a newsletter, ask them to come to a web form and be very upfront with them to say, listen, we are going to respect your privacy, and here's the information that we would like to have from you. And it's the same stuff that we would have had if we were all direct mail marketers 5-10 years ago. Simple coordinates, unique identifiers, an address, a name, a mailing address, an email address, a phone number. Leveraging machine learning also allows you to do this, to be able to leverage the past to predict the future. And once you have customer data, especially historical customer data, sitting in one place, you're able to algorithmically go and detect patterns in customer behavior from the past to be able to tell you what's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 quarters. How many of you have access to Google Trends? Quite a few of you. So going to third-party public data and being able to bounce what you see through 5 years of search data that Google gives you access to, and reconciling that with what you know about your own customers, puts you in an incredibly powerful position to predict the future, better plan, better spending for what you're doing with marketing. And about those mobile phones that we take everywhere with us. instead of running hashtag campaigns on Instagram, when we send something to our customers in a direct mail or ship that to them, or we put a receipt, or we drop something in their bag when they leave the store, or in an email to them, which 90% of the time they're going to check on their smartphone before they check on a computer, let's ask them a few questions and have them take a picture or shoot a video of what it is they just bought from us, or just to give us a video testimonial of why they bought from us. And let's ask them questions like, does it fit? Does it look the same as you thought it would? Please let us know if there are any challenges you have with this. When would you like us to be back in touch with you? Take the opportunity to put a URL in front of them and say, with your phone, visit this URL for a post-purchase experience. Not a survey. We know what people do with surveys, but an experience. And bring them in and get them to share both rich media and preferential insights with you. Now, the other reason you should look at doing this is because if you were running hashtag campaigns on Instagram and identifying customers that were talking about your brand or had attended your event, and you used those photos in any capacity, even if you reposted them, many times you're violating federal law because those images don't belong to you. That visual content does not belong to you. So the peer-to-peer opportunity, and a question that was asked last week when I talked about this, was resolution. If you're identifying visual content that you'd like to use from Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, there's a problem there that most of those photos have been optimized just for the web. They're much smaller and the resolution is poor for you to be able to use it the way you want to. But my point being, instead of using stock photography or spending tens of thousands, if not millions of dollars on professional shoots of your products, your services, your amusement parks, whatever it may be, instead of doing that, just ask people to send you something that they have already on that device, to upload it already from the device that they're looking at and they have with them everywhere they go. The bigger opportunity here is to leverage user-generated content across the entire ecosystem of your digital marketing system. Once someone has shared rich media with you and they have given you a testimonial, a rating, a review, once they've done that, you've got the opportunity to leverage that. They'll also check a box and say it's okay to use my photo, which is how you would have to do it if you were going to go get them to share a photo with you from Instagram as well. But in that peer-to-peer capacity, you have a step up and the ability to immediately leverage that across the entire system of marketing operations that you have at that point. And as you probably can already guess, or many of you probably have read just in the last year, as we've seen customer data privacy become a hot issue, user-generated content might be your best opportunity to get engagement with your customers on their terms, using their devices. If you plan on using a chatbot, how many of you went to the chatbot marketing funnel workshop yesterday? So Craig and I talked last night before he left, and we talked about the need for your chatbot, especially if it is true artificial intelligence that you have running your chatbot, to have it connected to the rest of the stack. Having a CDP simplifies this in the biggest way, but at the very least, when someone is your chatbot vendor or is approaching you to help you automate and scale customer care, or the first 5 minutes of an inbound inquiry that you may have with a potential customer, an existing customer, If they're going to do that, they need to be able to talk about how that solution gets smarter over time. The machine learns, and one of the best ways to do it is to let it have access to all the insights, all of the data that centers around a specific customer's behavior and past activity. But wait, there is still more, and it is predominantly analog. You as marketers should be sitting down, if not on a quarterly basis, at least on a semi-annual basis, to talk to customers. There's only 3 kinds of customers in the world. The ones you have today, which I'd argue are the most powerful source of insight and direction. They've already opened their wallets to you. They've already bought from you. They can answer all kinds of questions beyond Net Promoter Score type questions about why they bought from you and why they want to buy from you again. The customers that you've lost can tell you just as much that's just as valuable on why they're no longer buying from you. And then aspirationally, you probably, maybe it's a persona, maybe it's an ideal customer profile, you can go out and identify other folks that you'd love to have as a customer. Maybe they're using a competitor, and you want to talk to them. These are very, I would say, elementary, analog things that you should be doing in talking with customers from all 3 sets here. Establish a customer advisory board and make it diverse. Don't just take the top 10% of your customers. That is unfortunately what too many, especially software companies, do with their customer advisory boards. They look at the folks that are spending the most because they want to reward them with a trip to Napa or somewhere else to come to the customer advisory board retreat. But find a very diverse group of customers that you have today, 6 to 10 of them, and set them up as an impromptu panel that have regularly scheduled calls, could be webinars, could be something else with you, where you're getting back and forth exchanges of information with them to understand you as marketers, as much as folks on the product development side would want to have that access. You as marketers have insight into what makes customers tick. And then talk and share across your departmental responsibilities. Raise your hand if you're a digital marketer or you self-label yourself as one. Come on. Okay. Keep the hand up if you also run direct mail. That's impressive. The reason I always use the example there, direct mail marketers are more data-driven than any of you digital marketers could have ever been. Direct mail marketers know more about the numbers, how to leverage them, and how to get people to act on a piece of paper better than anybody else. And it's a shame that most of the folks that are in the seat of community management, social strategy, social engagement, digital strategy, don't include those folks in the room when it comes to planning. And my argument is that you should have a cup of coffee with each other at least on a monthly basis, if not more frequently. The insights that can be shared and ultimately the collaborative opportunities to leverage each other that come from those exchanges is enormous. So onward to cocktails. By doing these first steps, these initial steps of unifying your customer data into one central place, and it's not just customer data, I will remind you. It can be Internet of Things. It could be the millions, the tens of millions of connected vehicles that are on our roads today. You have access to that data. You have access to wearable data if you wanted to know how people behave. So you've got the opportunity to put all of that data in one place in order to have the best knowledge and to be able, as lab technicians that you are, have the best chemistry to build the best customer experience. And I would argue that marketing leads the way for your entire brand to be customer focused externally rather than internally focused operationally. That's how you get a hold of me. If you want to ask questions that you don't want to ask right now, or you don't have the time because you got to drive somewhere, but I see the block here and want to make sure that I can answer at least one or two questions.
Questions? Yes.
Who had a hand up?
Did you raise your hand?
Use the mic. Go ahead.
I'm Janie Ho again.
I know.
Oh, that was very loud. Someone just told me that most of the tweets around this event have been around me because I've been tweeting a lot, so that's very exciting. You said marketers, most people use 50 to 80 apps or so in their MarTech stack.
Right.
What would you say if you had to pare that down? Like, what would you, to get it down to, like, what are those key categories that are completely essential? Because I think most data or from APIs do not talk to each other, and that's like one of the bigger problems that I keep asking every panelist about.
Right.
So what are the essentials if you had to try to get it down? You think 50 to 80, what's your take on that? Is that too much?
Sure.
And what categories should that be in?
So, as a consultant, I don't ever have much success if I go in and I start telling people to rip and replace or to totally shut things off, right? So managing the 50 to 80 in the near term is absolutely a pragmatic thing to do. Ultimately, there are new technologies that are on the market today that allow you to do 3 or 4 things in one. And I will make sure, maybe in the LinkedIn group, and again, you guys have my email address there, shoot me an email if you want the slides. I'm happy to share them with you. Because categorically, on those slides where I had CDP in the middle, categorically is what I see as the necessities. And without trying to give a laundry list to a bunch of people in a room that don't have the same job, I would rather you look at the categorical way that I've looked at this to say, what should you focus on in terms of keeping for the near term? And as I said on at least 1 or 2 of those slides, who knows what tomorrow is going to bring? Who knows when it comes to some of the capabilities? I mentioned virtual reality, augmented reality, certainly chatbots, automated everything, drone-delivered groceries. We just don't know what it's going to look like in the future, so you have to be ready for those as well. And but I would say, once you see, if you want to go back and look at the slides, I've got a categorical answer for you in there of specifically what the priority should be on. I think that's what I was saying before, is if I'm not putting things on SlideShare. Well, I may. This is my last DigimarCon. I haven't for the previous 2, knowing that I was going to be using this same deck again. So after today, Aaron hasn't invited me to be anywhere else. So I will probably put them on SlideShare. If you want them before I do that, because that'll probably take a few days for me to get to that, just shoot me a tweet, and I'll send you a Dropbox link. Well, I'll get them to you. Just let me know you want them. Any other questions? All right. Thanks for hanging in there with me. You guys have been great.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tim, to be our closing keynote. Thank you very much.